7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
This is Eat and Drink with Ali Hassan and Marco Timpano, the podcast where back of house Ali and front of house Marco talk food and drink. Heads up, these two spent decades in restaurants, so some mature content and language is bound to come up. Get ready for Eat and Drink. Forks up.
Okay, this is it.
This is it. Here we are.
Episode 1.
Episode 1. We are the first people on Earth to talk about food and drink.
Without a doubt.
It does feel like that, though. It feels very special. I mean, our website, our social media, can't believe it's there. Can't believe it's available.
No. I'm Marco Timpano.
Oh, yeah, how about that? I'm Ali Hassan.
And you're listening, thank you for listening to our podcast.
It's called Eat and Drink.
Yeah.
Nobody has Eat and Drink. We have Eat and Drink.
I couldn't believe it.
And we are qualified to talk to you about eating and drinking. Hey, just from physically, if you saw us, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I trust that person.
Yeah, they eat, they drink.
They eat and they drink. But also, Marco, you described yourself, to me and to others as a front of house guy your whole life, really like drink focused. I was more of a back of house. Sometimes they let me out to speak to people.
And sometimes I went in the back. We should mention that front of house in restaurant terms means you are in the front of the house. In other words, you're not cooking, but you're doing everything else. You're serving, you're making drinks, you're seating people. Anything that happens in the front of house, that's what you're doing.
Sure.
And back of house encompasses anyone
cocaine and degeneracy.
Well, that happens in the front of house too. But primarily cooking, cleaning, washing, prepping. Anything that happens for your food to get on a plate and brought to you happens in the back of house. Is that safe to say?
I think that is very safe to say. I think my hands ache to this day because of exactly what you just described in the back of the house.
My head spins to this day, is what you described. I also want to mention that this is going to be the show where we explain who we are. And every subsequent show is actually going to have content. And
the subsequent shows are going to have some meat and some juice, so to speak, and not even, literally. You're going to spend maybe even a third of the show making a drink, making an exciting cocktail of some kind, and I'm going to sit across from you in awe while you do that, and then I'm going to take a third of the show and I'm going to feed you something, and then you're going to describe it in a way that you are very good at describing.
That you've prepared with your own blessed hands.
Blessed hands.
And then we'll talk about what we do in the last third of the show later on.
Yeah, sure.
It's kind of more of the surprise element.
Yeah, it's a surprise element, and it's exciting. It's great.
But I want to start, and when I say we want to start by getting to know each other for our listeners. Does that make sense?
Of course it does.
First of all, I want to I say Ali.
Well.
But how do you pronounce your first name? Because I feel like a bit of a degenerate because I'm like, I pronounce it one way, and a friend of mine was like, that's not how I say his name.
Yeah.
So I'm like starting off already like a degenerate saying I pronounce my co-host's name incorrectly.
It's actually pronounced Uli.
Oh, is it really?
No. What? Come on, dude. What's wrong with you?
I'll try to do that. Uli. That sounds German.
Pretty good delivery on my end, though, wasn't it?
But your serious face.
I know.
Okay.
I act. I also act. People should know that. Anyway, here's the thing. At home, my parents call me Ali. The A often in Pakistani names, Indian names, it's not the A. Mm-hmm. It's Ali. Awesome. You might have that Atif, like it's not Atif, it's not Asif, it's Asif. So it's Ali. It's like a soft A. Okay. But when I left the house, unless people were Pakistani, they would never say Ali. It wasn't Muhammad Ali.
Right.
It was Muhammad Ali. Unless my mother was talking, then she would say, Muhammad Ali is very good. I'm like, that is not how anybody pronounces this guy's name, including his own family.
Sure.
So there's always been two, minimum. But then, you leave the house and some people are like, what leg do I have to stand on to say, like, hey, it's not Ali, it's Ali. When at home, it's Ali, right? Like, this was always the great debate in our house because my mother would be like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to go play hockey at Farhan's house. She goes, what the hell is a Farhan? It's Farhan. I'm like, well, hey, he's not told anybody that I know that his name is Farhan.
Right.
He says, I'm Farhan. That's how he's... Well, who am I to be like, hey, buddy, just going to correct you on your own name?
Fair.
So, long story short, you can call me whatever you like, as long as it's A-L. I did that one. I used to be a radio DJ on campus.
Okay.
Champlain College on the South Shore.
I did the same thing.
Did you do that?
CHRY 105.5 FM at York University.
That's great. So I did this at Champlain, the Sham Radio. It's my audition. I go, hey guys, my name is Ali, or you can pronounce it Ali, or anyway, you can call me whatever you like. And some guy, I hear him through the glass go, how about asshole? Okay, never say. Call me whatever you like. Never say that. So I don't say that. I said it and then I comment.
For me, it's got to be Marco, or if you're going to use the Italian, Marco is fine.
Is it Marco? I thought it was Mario.
No. There's a C. That C sometimes, if you don't write it right, looks like an I. But I don't. What I don't like, you can call me Mario, but just don't call me Mark or Marcus. Not that I have a problem with those names, but that's not my name.
Right, that's a different name entirely.
But the funny thing is, I'll meet somebody, and then I'll meet them months later, and they'll call me Dominic. Is always number one. They'll be like, Dominic.
You look like a Dominic. This is weird.
You think I don't look like a Dominic?
You don't think so?
No.
Oh, definitely.
Or Carmine. Those are the two.
You're a 1,000% Carmine. You are such a Carmine. This is weird. I'm not even joking. Okay. If somebody said, like, some names match people, names don't match. Sometimes you have a name and it doesn't match you. You're like, that does not look like an Alyssa at all.
Right.
You are so Carmine. I retract my Dominic because you're only like 5% Dominic, but you are 1,000% Carmine. It is going to be so difficult not to call you Carmine.
Well, you call me what you need to call me. I should mention, that's a great segue into the fact that my background's Italian, so a lot of my perspective is going to have an Italian slant to it, in particular with cuisine.
Yeah.
That's not to say I can't speak on other ethnic cuisines or sort of national cuisines of Canada or North America.
Yeah.
But I'm going to bring my Italian bias to this podcast.
You have to.
I'm going to.
We have to.
Yeah.
We need you to.
And are you going to bring a bias, or are you?
No, I'm not like you. I'm not prejudicial against other cultures. I'm actually going. So my background is Pakistani. My parents come from. We're both born in India. So it's a South Asian perspective. I'm sure, but. For many years, I ran from my South Asian-ness. I talk about this on stage where, like, when my parents were cooking, I was like, oh, God, what a nightmare. And then I'd go downstairs and I'd be like, oh, my God, the closet's open. The closet's open. Oh, my God. And then I smell my jean jacket and it reeks. And then my friends are coming to pick me up and I'm just outside on my lawn just waving my jean jacket in the air, hoping I can dissipate some of the smell. Because when your buddies show up, you just don't want to hear, oh, you reek of curry, bro. There's no sort of like, well, actually, guys, curry, it contains turmeric, which has been known to, slow rates of Alzheimer's. What are you going to say to a bunch of 16-year-old idiots in Brossard, Quebec? There's nothing.
I remember being embarrassed in the lunchroom because I had a prosciutto sandwich or a speck sandwich or tongue in my sandwich, and people like, and this was before these meats were like, you go and you have a charcuterie board. Oh, that's prosciutto. That's
spaghetti and meatballs, fine, but
nothing. Yeah. And I had these weird ingredients, right? And there were other Italians in my grade school, and then I moved to Woodbridge.
Which is, for our listeners, a heavily Italian-populated area.
There's probably more Italians in Woodbridge than some cities in Italy.
Yeah. If the wind blows a certain way in the city of Toronto, you can smell the prosciutto that is being made in the garages in Woodbridge.
Without a doubt. And if I had a luncheon meat in my sandwich that wasn't Italian, that's where I would have got it.
Like funny.
Let's say I had spam in
peanut butter.
If I had spam or peanut butter, people would look at me like, "What's wrong with this guy?" So it was interesting how that flipped.
Sure. All of a sudden, you're not proud of who you are anymore.
At that point, it was like, okay, I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah. So I ran from my culture to the point where when I started teaching cooking classes, it was never Indian Pakistani food.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, it wasn't. I was teaching Mediterranean. It was always Mediterranean because Mediterranean, I'm a guy who gets bored so easily.
Sure.
Much less so now, but back then it was like horrible. Like I couldn't stay focused on anything. Yeah. So I was like, hey, I'll do Mediterranean because Mediterranean, now you have like region of France, you have southern France, Spain. Sure. You could Mediterranean. You could even like shoehorn in, Lebanese,
Greece, Italy, Malta,
right?
All those places.
So, did I have an expertise in cooking any of those things? Absolutely not. But there I was learning it, creating at home, being sort of like treating my home like a lab. And obviously, you are a lab all the time if you eat as much as I do out, and then you go and you try to recreate. And I was like consumed by early Food Network. I really feel like I was one of the first 100 people watching the Food Network, and I had subscriptions to 3 different food magazines.
Which ones?
Food and Wine.
Yes.
Gourmet.
Yes.
The now defunct. No, is Gourmet defunct? It is. Yeah. And Bon Appetit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Talking about our cultures, I just want to make a statement off the top here that we're going to be talking about other cultural cuisines, and we're going to do our best to be respectful or use terms that are appropriate. But if we don't, that's just the way it goes, man. Like I hate this.
It's
I hate
food
this
in the end of the day,
cultural appropriation when it comes to food.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard this sort of concept where it's like, well, if you cook, a different ethnicity's food, are you culturally appropriating it? And I say, fuck no, man. Food is food.
Also, we're going to swear on this.
Yeah, we're also. I'm just going to say this off the top. I love food. I love different ethnic cuisines. I love different flavors. Do not pigeonhole me to one flavor.
Yeah.
And do not tell me what I can and cannot cook because of my ethnic background. That's where I said. And respect goes to these cultures, and don't mask, let's say Japanese food and call it, oh no, this is North American food. I totally respect that.
Yeah.
But
well, it's interesting because the cultural appropriation thing has turned something that was so great on its head a little bit, where you kind of call everything, it's like this blanket term where it's like, well, that's not what it was. When we were growing up, if my Trinidadian friends, how proud they were of me to introduce me to their uncles and aunts. Like, he makes his own pepper sauce, auntie. He's like, his face used to burn when he ate pepper sauce, and now he makes his own, and everybody was like, oh, that's so great. You're somebody embracing somebody else's culture. Yeah. And you can do that with food. You can do that. Now, when you start making money off somebody's food without honoring their culture at all, then we have a whole new argument. But, man, come on. 90% of the Greek restaurants in any city have Sri Lankans working in the back.
I worked in New York, and the best chefs cooking the Italian food were Pakistani.
Yeah.
So it's like,
so
you
gotta be a little flexible on these things.
We're going to be flexible. The thing that we want to make sure this podcast proves is that we love food.
Yes.
And we love drink, and that's my
The challenge, if I can say, is that as much as you and I try to be flexible, it's very, very difficult. Sure. As soon as you watch, somebody ask for ketchup with their sausage, you're like, oh God, there's like a reaction you're going to have. As soon as somebody, if they were going to eat roti with like a curry and they didn't know what to do with the roti and they just kind of rolled it up in a taco, you'd be like, what? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it's very difficult to be that person genuinely in your heart. It's like, hey, whatever you want. Do whatever you want.
Right.
We're aware of that.
Yep.
Sometimes we will have our little our things that are sticking points.
Our purists.
And other times we'll say, hey, let's just relax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this: how did you get this love for food? Tell me about like your earliest days. Like,
I'm not comfortable with that question.
Okay, fair enough. Let me.
Imagine I wasn't. Okay. That would be
school lunches. Then I'm going to get into that because I got some notes here that I want to attack.
Well, I don't fault my mother at all, obviously, for this. What an idiot I was. But my mother worked 9 to 5, 50 hours at least. She was gone from the house. So what she would do the best she could. She'd make a sandwich every night. Not in the morning. She'd prepare before. She'd make a sandwich for herself. She'd make a sandwich for me. It would be the same sandwich, 2 pieces of white bread, 2 slices of white bread, tomato, Kraft singles, mayonnaise, wrapped in foil.
And the Kraft single is processed cheese slices for our international listeners.
Right. Eventually it became cheddar, slices of cheddar, still not great cheddar. What do you think happened with that tomato that was, for 12 hours sitting up against that bread?
It stayed pristine and fresh and was wonderful.
You, my friend, don't understand what tomatoes do to bread. So every day, soggy sandwiches.
Sure.
And now I'm watching,
You're eating panzanella at that point.
Panzanella. You know what? That would have been a great spin. But in fact, soggy sandwiches, I would open up this foil and like every day the same thing. My mother was doing her best, husband's a heavy drinker, the daughter is special needs. She's doing everything she can to like just run this house. Sure. And her idiot son, me, I'm pointing at myself,
yep.
I think at age 14, it's like grade 9. I'm watching my buddies have like 4 or 5 different containers. My buddy Zach would have like corned beef. I didn't even know what corned beef was.
Man, that
Zach,
guy.
and then a container with just some pickles, a container with chips.
Sorry, you were saying about Zach had all these compartments.
Zach had a like compartmentalized food, and here I am, one soggy sandwich. So one day, grade 9, I'm particularly, irked by this thing, and I say to my mom, "I'm sick of your shitty, soggy tomato sandwiches." Yeah, and you, first of all,
how? Like,
I just lost it.
Oh, man.
First of all, you don't swear in my house when I was growing up. My father did plenty, but you don't swear at my mom. That's just not something I ever did. And second of all, that's not the way I was supposed to, talk to my mother. And then, God bless her heart, she said, "Okay, you can make your own sandwiches from now on."
Done.
And I was like, "I will." And then I was like, "Oh man, now I got to do this." And I literally didn't have a start. I just knew I didn't want this, so then I start making omelets and just having omelet sandwiches, and then various meats. And I started one thing I did. So Ali Hassan, last name Hassan, nickname was Hassanwiches for a little while because I paid so much attention to not allowing that bread to be soggy. So I'd go grocery shopping with my dad. I'm like, "Can we get these sprouts?"
Right.
Because then just a bed of
Sure, of
sprouts
course.
will stop something from
Insulates,
being,
yeah, of
insulates.
course,
So I'm
yeah.
all about like this, protecting the bread and the integrity. I was so concerned with the integrity of the sandwich, and Hassanwiches was born. And then by grade 10, I've got like these like black olive omelets with a Boursin cheese that my father liked on it, and I was like, "Oh, this is not so bad." The thing is, I had to feed myself. My mother was not. She was like, "You're going to be like
thanks
that?"
to your mother.
So thanks to my mother and my foul mouth. Let's not forget about my foul mouth, who was really to get credit for this. I started making sandwiches, and then that turned into like a little bit more chili, spaghetti, meatballs, this kind of thing. Not making my own meatballs just yet, but just the stuff that I can make. Let me try to make a tomato sauce and various very amateurish stuff. But some of my buddies tell me, like, when we were in college and we would go on like ski trips and this and that, we'd pull up to this like townhouse that we'd be staying at for 3 days, and everyone would be like, "Okay, so Al, what groceries do we need?"
Amazing.
No, it was unspoken. It was just understood that obviously Al, that I'm the Al in that story. You probably picked up. Al's going to do the cooking, and a few of my friends are like, "Man, what would you have done if you didn't cook? We would have starved."
You were already food costing.
Yeah, exactly.
At a young age.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
pretty
I was
amazing.
already designing. Exactly.
Yeah.
Food costing is the best way to describe it. Although that for listeners who are not familiar with that world, they may not know what food costing is.
It's something that could make or break your restaurant. Is someone who knows how to food cost and someone who doesn't.
Yeah. So, right away I was like, "Okay, we're going to need oregano. We're going to need this. We're going to need this, this. And then I'd have, menus in mind. And, another thing happened with my father when I was about 18 or 19. He had angina.
Right.
The first of many heart and lung issues over the next 20 to 30 years. But then we so the whole thing was like no butter, no oil, right? And so it was a big transition to margarine.
Which is worse.
Which is way worse.
Right, but at the time, it was
what did we
healthy.
know?
It was
Doctors know what they're talking about. They must know. So then, somehow it went low salt, low oil,
right,
and then low flavor too. Like somehow the even the chili and all the spice was like cut. I think they just went low everything, and so then I went on kind of a vendetta at that point like I will recreate the meals of my youth. I can't live like this. Yeah,
good for you.
And then the star was born.
There you go. And that's eat. That's how eat happened.
Marco, how does somebody decide that I want to be a guy who quenches people's thirst? I find that fascinating because I would never. I think stomach. I'll feed you. They'll be. But you're like, no. I'll get you a little buzzed. I'll quench your thirst. Sure. I'll be the first thing in your mouth. You're gonna, So, and I'm gonna be shaking things around you. How did you want to do this?
For me, it's all about taking the stigma and the snobbiness and bullshit away from beverages and cocktails. But also keeping to when something is perfect, keep it perfect. So here's my sort of journey. Since I was a little kid, my dad and my grandfather would make wine. in every September, every fall, they'd get grapes and they would make wine.
This is here in Toronto.
This is here in Toronto, and I was part of that process. Even if they didn't want me to be a part of that process, because have you ever made wine?
I've not.
So there's these contraptions, these mechanical
Seen those.
instruments
Yes.
that create the wine that are fascinating for a kid. So you take the grapes and you throw them into this thing that and you do this. What am I doing right now?
So you're cranking.
You're cranking something that.
So you weren't doing the feet. You weren't standing in a bucket with your feet.
Oh, I
and
was
pressing
trying
with
to
your
crank.
feet.
I always wanted to crank. I always wanted to get that crank, and it's like two cogs that crush the grapes so that it releases some of the juices, right?
Right. That's what I mean. You weren't doing it with your toes and your feet.
No. That's I love Lucy. I mean, like at a certain point, I that's one of those things that people
That's
have
festivals in
Yeah,
Italy
people
as well,
think,
right?
oh, that's how Italians. No, that's I think maybe in the 17th century that's how they did it. But
Okay.
anyway, so. Then from there, you put them into this other machine that squishes it, and you're cranking back and forth. And as a kid, all you want to do is the mechanics, right? And you see the wine spilling out, or the juice spilling out. It's not quite wine then. But it's laborious, right? But as a kid, you just want to do it once or twice, right? But then you're kind of like in the way of the adults who are doing it.
Yeah.
Then you get older, and you're like,
Is it that weekend again?
it's like, I got to do it. I got to crank. I got to do this. And now you become slave labor. Now it's like you crank it. You do this. You want to do it as a kid. Now you do now that you have the strength, right? So for me, wine was always like I knew how to make wine and I knew the process. And it wasn't elegant and it wasn't snobby and it wasn't, condescending, right? So when I so I grew up with that. And I always had access to wine. So when we were having lunch or dinner, there was always wine on the table, and I was encouraged to drink it. But I didn't care about it because it's like, oh, why do I want to drink that when I can drink something, juice or something, right?
Yeah.
So wine was never a big thing in my household because that's how I was raised. So cut to me working in the restaurant business, and people are like, how dry? What is the dry level on this? Oh, do you know that Armagnac, they grow that in a different type of soil? And it's like, folks, let's just relax, okay? Because you're not enjoying the beverage. You're talking about it in a way that's dismissive to people who don't get it. And so that there's fear of like, I don't know what wine to order when I go to a restaurant. I work against that. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
If I'm a good sommelier, if I'm a good waiter, if I'm a good bar server, you ask me and I'll guide you to what you like. Even if you don't know, if you just tell me, if I ask you to describe a flavor that you like, I'll point you in the right direction, but I won't dismiss it. I won't make you look foolish. For me, that's what a beverage or a cocktail or a coffee is all about. You might not know what an espresso macchiato is. I don't expect you to know it. But I know what a good espresso macchiato is, and I'll take you there and I'll make sure you get a good espresso macchiato.
That's great.
Yeah, so that's where my passion comes from.
I think we connect on that issue too because there is all this mystery, especially around Indian food. I was telling you that I started cooking Middle Eastern food, Mediterranean food, this kind of stuff, and then students. These were like more often than not women. 20 years older than me, but my students would be like, where are you from? And I'd be like, oh, my family's from Pakistan. They'd be like, oh, we'd love to learn about that. I mean, you would? And you go back and you explore your own cuisine in an excited way. But as a guy who was teaching people, I was like, I don't, they would be at these stores where I taught, like these grocery stores. Could you wear the chef's hat? I'm never going to wear the chef's hat. It's not you are empty vessels and I'm communicating knowledge into your brain. It's like we can all learn. Everybody has experience, whether it's through a grandmother or a friend or like themselves that they can impart. You can always learn something about food from somebody. Although in this day and age, that's arguable. There are some people you can't learn anything from because they have avoided like a mission. Like, I will never be stuck in the kitchen. And that, I see friends who are now like, guys, your health is in trouble because you just eat out all the time. You can't make anything for yourself. So anyway.
It's fascinating, too, for example, like this whole sort of culture or this celebrity cult of chefs, which I don't necessarily buy into. Just because you have that pedigree, you can cook. That's great. But you're not going to cook as good as my mother or my grandmother did when it comes to Northern Italian cuisine, unless that's your specialty, right?
Sure.
And so it's like, there is a respect. I do have a respect for chefs, proper chefs, and people who've studied and cordon bleu this and whatever that. But that's not to diminish the fact that there's some people who've not studied anything and they've just been around it who are able to do it and just know
well, there's
what
no
food
substitute for experience.
There isn't.
There's just no substitute. This is a even more a larger discussion. that I started having in the comedy world because people would teach comedy
We're
classes.
both comedians, by the way.
We're both comedians.
Yes.
That's another
and
thing we should
actors
mention.
and writers. Yeah, we never mentioned that off the top.
It'll all come out.
Listen.
It'll all come out. So Jimbo, it was the owner of the Comedy Works in Montreal, and he was very, very much of the belief that, you know where the classroom is? The classroom's right there. And he pointed his stage. That's the classroom.
He's right.
He was right. You do two, 3 sets a night. What you learn there, as long as you're going through the motions of, not going through the motion, but going through the effort of taking notes. What did I learn? Why did that joke not work? That's way more valuable than a 3 hours Sunday with somebody and like joke. I mean, some people need it. Some people need the class, gives them direction, gives them focus. But I don't know. In the end, the experience is everything.
Is there something you eat every single day?
No, I'm not that guy.
Okay.
I'm not that guy. I have a brother-in-law who eats a cheese sandwich 5 days a week, and I'm like, I don't even understand how your mind works.
Like I drink a cappuccino every single day.
Every single day.
Yeah.
I don't have every.
I usually start my day with well, maybe not a cappuccino, but with an Italian espresso-based coffee. I have every single day.
I would say 10 years of my life, I started the day with orange juice every single day. And the reason is because that's how my mother would get me up. She would come in my room.
Gotta love it.
With orange juice, and she'd be like, "The juice is spilling. The juice is spilling." I'd be like, "Huh? What? Why is this?" You know what I mean? And now you're up, and you have orange juice in your mouth, and you're like, "This is how she would wake me up." Either that, or like as I got older, teenager, it would be like, "You've wasted half the day. Wake up!" Opening the blind, like aggressive.
Sure.
But even then, there was still orange juice waiting in the. So it was
amazing.
My foundation is juice foundation, which I never drink that juice anymore. I was always like fresh orange juice, fresh grapefruit juice. It just I can't go back to the the branded. I was going to mention the brand there. I don't even know.
You don't have to explain anymore. I get it. I was just wondering when at what point you told your mother to fuck off, stop bringing me orange juice, seeing as that's the kind of son you
never
seem
happened.
to be. Okay,
then I would have to bring myself orange juice. Can't do that. I got to crawl out of bed for my OJ.
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
Tell me.
I have your culinary resume in front of me. Which was an experience in itself as we were sort of formulating our first episode here. Cash and Curry, tell me about that.
Cash and Curry was a great little spot. It was a not-for-profit art gallery, and we set up in the back. It also had a kitchen. We set up in the back our restaurant. So it had a kitchen there. It had maybe seating for 22, 25 people at most.
You were the chef and co-owner,
Myself and my friend Nanta.
Okay.
And anyone from Montreal who's been in Montreal the last 20 years will know Nanta. He is a Malaysian dude. He's a local bon vivant and ne'er-do-well. And there's a chapter written in a book. I can't remember the name of the author. It was Joe. Anyway, there's a chapter that talks about Nanta. That when Nanta is in his car driving down the street, other cars leave parking spaces to me. It's just like things go his way, kind of thing. So he was a man about town. He was a Malaysian guy who just missed his mother's cooking and started cooking, and then. More and more, he realized this is what I want to do, and sometimes it was his side hustle, sometimes it was his main thing, and he owned restaurants. He worked in restaurants. Sometimes he was in restaurants where the owner and him had a deal where they'll make profits off the booze, he'll make the food money. Except that people would come just for food sometimes, because his food was like he's making Malaysian laksa soup, and you don't need a beer at that point. You're having a nice warm nursing soup. You're not thinking, and so then he would run into issues with the owners. They're like, no one's drinking. They're just coming here and eating your food. Well, this is the deal you wrote. Anyway, he and I started this place together, Cash and Curry, and it was a Malaysian, it was a Malaysian takeout place, and it was great. The problems you want to have. My comedy career was taking off to a good place at the same time as we were doing that. So a year into Cash and Curry, I was missing like Fridays and Saturdays, a few times a month. And then we're such a small operation, I had to find somebody to sub in for me every time. And then it was like, it doesn't make sense. We're paying this person, you're off doing this. And so anyway, I had to leave it, and in the end, he moved on as well. But it was one of the greatest experiences. Wow. Didn't make a cent for a year, but because we were blowing it all, like partying afterwards. But it was a great experience.
Cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
You have. I wish we should actually post your resume. There's great stuff here. Board of Trade Country Club.
Yes.
And you wrote in brackets, think of that place in Dirty Dancing, which is hilarious. I mean,
I got hired as a bar server there when I was 18.
Yeah.
So in Ontario, you have to be 19 years old to drink, but you can be 18 years old to serve alcohol.
Yeah.
And so I got hired at this fancy, swanky country club that was sort of dying.
Yeah.
Much like the lament in Dirty Dancing, where like nobody comes to the Catskills anymore.
Yeah.
This was a country club that had a golf course and a curling club in it. And you had to, if you were a member, had to spend a certain amount every month in the dining room. And it was a formal dining room. So we made like Caesar salads at the table. And they would have bands that would play every week. And all these old folks would get up and dance. And we'd have like, the big band was Lawrence Welk's clarinet player, Henry Cuesto, would come for 2 weeks every year. And people would line up for this guy who used to wail in a clarinet. Like, just think about it. A clarinet player would draw. So that's what kind of club.
You ever see a black or a brown person in the time that you worked there?
Only if they were back
In
of
the
the house,
band? Okay.
or if they were in the band.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, we had one or two members who were,
God bless
but it was certainly just so that they could say that we have. No, we open to everyone,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But-
Don't tell your friends about it.
But that was where I learned about like how to open a wine bottle properly, how like classic cocktails that had made a disappearance that are only resurging now in the last 5 years. But
This is the foundation of your training.
because
basically,
it was like, I'll teach you. The bartenders were all like full of piss and vinegar, and they're like,
Yeah.
I'll teach you how to make that. I'll show you how to make a stinger on
Yeah,
the
yeah,
rocks.
yeah.
Here, taste it, right? Even though I was underage, they're like, you need to know what it tastes like. So,
Yeah.
and so I got this sort of early start on classic cocktails in a time where people were just ordering gin and tonics and rum and cokes.
Yeah, that is a great foundation, and at a leisurely pace where you're actually learning.
Yeah.
Not in like a nightclub where it's just like pop, 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 and you're not even you don't even care if it like tastes like a proper Cosmo or whatever. You're angry that they're not just ordering it, and then you did that too. Atlantis nightclub is a place where you may have even served me. We used to come visit from Montreal,
my
Toronto.
God.
We'd go to Atlantis and spend way too much money just to get the energy and the bravado to go dance for 3 hours.
It was the most bullshit place I've ever worked. So it was a club on a little man-made island. And I remember working there, and I remember everyone was an asshole to me. There was these bartenders that had been there forever, right? And they just looked down on me like, who the fuck are you? Like, you're coming here. We just got hired. I'm like, I got hired to bartend, right? And I remember there was this French-Canadian woman who was a bartender too. And we kind of connected because they're treating us both badly. And they'd put us in the worst bar, and we're like, all right, put us in the worst dance part, and we'll just serve and have fun. And we just looked at each other like, I'd much rather work with you than these assholes. And we were making, and I was like, screw it, I'm going to charge what I want. Like if you came to the bar and I knew you or whatever, I'm like, here's your kamikaze free, or here's your J&T free.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, these guys are treating me like garbage. And interesting enough, both myself and this French Canadian woman, who I don't remember her name, she was sweet, we were the only two not scamming tips. I have to say, as long as my career as waitering and as a bartender has been, I've never scammed tips, even though I knew I worked for restaurants where they were pooling money and taking money, and I worked with people that I knew were stealing tips. I never did.
And just to be clear on this, if anybody doesn't know, tips typically go in a pool and it's shared among, let's say, bus boys, right? Bussers and servers.
Well, you can work at places where you keep your own tips and then you tip out.
Yeah.
So I would tip out to, let's say, the chef or my bar back or whatnot.
Yeah.
I've never worked in those houses. I've only worked in pool houses, which
Yeah.
I don't love.
Yeah.
And a lot of those places, the money goes to management, and then management divvies it up, so you never truly know where that's going. And I've worked in several restaurants, and I won't name them, where I know the owners were scheming and scheming and scheming.
Can you imagine, man? You're not even getting a proper wage. The tips are everything for you, and then the owners take.
And I
that
was
too.
I was a good waiter. I was a good bartender. People liked me. Maybe I wasn't the best bartender because I wouldn't put up with, like, there's some mixologists or bartenders or baristas who, make a big song and dance about it, and good for them. That's their style. That was never my style. I was like, I'll make you the drink, but I'm not gonna flourish my hands like a magician at the end of it. No, you're just going to get a drink from me. So, but different strokes for different folks.
Yeah. I like this that you hosted the junior chef competition across Canada. And you said this is before Chopped, right?
So I did this with my buddy who Mark DeAngelis.
Yeah.
We got hired because we were improvisers to do this competition where they would have junior chefs in different provinces competing. So you'd have about 10 junior chefs. So they could be in culinary school or they could just be people who worked in restaurants, but they couldn't be professionals, let's say. They couldn't be an actual chef. And they were all like under the age of 22, let's say. And they would all have to prepare a dish based on the same ingredients, right? And they would be judged, and one of them would then vie for a chance to compete and be on the Canadian Culinary Olympic team.
Okay.
That would then go.
This is what age group?
This was junior chefs. So they were like, let's say under 25. They weren't very old. They were like, most of them were in culinary schools.
You said... I'm picturing MasterChef Kids age.
No.
When I heard junior.
No,
Plus,
sorry.
Mark now, he's written
Yes.
on a show called Odd Squad, which I've been on, and which you've been on as
Yeah.
well. So I was just thinking like 12 and under.
No. These were
junior.
chefs in culinary school or
Got it.
junior chefs. And what was amazing, which you don't see on Chopped, was they would do this at food shows. You know when they have those sort of like, the convention center and you can go around. Well, Knorr was sponsoring this thing. So Knorr was one of their major sponsors. So they had all these like kitchens and ovens and whatnot where these kids would be cooking, and they'd be cooking and they'd have a guest chef. So it would like be Christine Cushing or I can't remember the other chef's name, but it takes hours to prepare those dishes, right? So we had to provide comedic relief in the time that these people were cooking. So it's only in the last 4 minutes that it gets exciting, where they're chopping away and they're like,
Of course.
all the prep
The
time,
viewer never thinks about that.
you're trying to get people in to watch what's going on and be interested, but they're not. They're boiling carrots. They're making a roux or something, right? So me and Mark were just like jackasses. We'd be and there was celebrity judges, so we'd be asking celebrity judges insane questions. But we did that across Canada.
Yeah. I've had to do that on a sitcom that was filmed in Toronto, spun out.
Yes.
And so, in between takes or while they're turning around a camera or shifting things on scene, I have to be the idiot, between the scenes. All right, what's your favorite show? I don't know. I really liked Cheers. Wrong answer. It's spun out. Come on, buddy. Hey, come on. Hey, get with the program. And you're just constantly like, it's a real monkey dance situation. And then in your ear, they go, we're ready. And you're like in the middle of telling a story. So then you realize, I can't be too self-indulgent about this. Like, you can't be like, funny story, guys. I remember when I was a kid. And so, are we done? Okay, never mind. And it was constantly like that. You're constantly getting pulled. So it's like, all right, I'm going to dance through this thing. Who wants to win some donuts? It was a mess. But
Now, you worked in one of my favorite culinary cities, which was Chicago.
oh, yeah.
So you worked there for IT, and then you got into food? Tell me that journey.
So, there were many signs along the way that I did not belong in IT.
Okay.
Or anything out of the food world, to be perfectly honest. But, I did this IT program. There's like 4 modules. So in one module, you got to build like the back end of some system. And I'd be like, let's do the back end, an inventory for a grocery store.
Right.
I convinced my team, 4 people, like, no, grocery store would be good. No, your idea sucks, grocery store. Then the next one, we're doing a front, like an app, what would you call it? This is how bad I am at IT. Like something with a front, a face an
Interface
app. Interface,
Okay.
There's the word. You're doing an interface. I'm like, how about a reservation system for a restaurant? Well, we could, no. Restaurant, go to a restaurant. And so this one woman, Winnie, I remember, she was in 3 out of the 4 modules with me, just by chance.
Good old Winnie.
Good old Winnie. And Winnie Chung said to me, she goes, you have no business in IT, right? I'm like, a bit rude. She goes, no, I mean it in a way like you're obviously obsessed with food. You're the only person in this class I can talk to about restaurants. I was like spending my money that's supposed to be for loan by going out and eating instead, Whereas everyone else is like macaroni, and I'm like, forget it, you gotta live.
Yeah.
But I was heavily in debt, and it was like all food all the time. She's like, you don't belong here. I was like, I'm doing this. Anyway, get a job in Chicago with this degree. Hate everything about the job. Suck at this job.
But are you happy that you're in Chicago and the food
I'm
is
so
amazing?
happy I'm in Chicago,
Okay.
but I want to put a gun in my mouth 8 hours of every day.
Oh, wow.
Every day. I mean, I would go to lunch and I would
And you're
savor
earning good
every bite.
cash.
I'm earning good cash.
You're earning good cash. You've got a great job.
$61,000.
Okay.
Exactly.
And that was back in the day. So
It was in 2000. It was
Yeah.
a great paycheck.
Yeah.
I was paying off my school loans and all that, but I was living in Chicago.
Sure.
It was excellent, and the world held some promise for me. But at the same time, every single day, I was like, I can't do this.
Wow.
This can't be my life.
Right.
And so I lived at 12 West Elm, At 10 West Elm, basically a bar inside my building. I would just take the elevator down, go outside for about, I would say, 2 seconds.
Yeah.
1, 2, and then you're back into the bar.
Sure.
It was called Spikes, run by this misogynist, very rough around the edges, ex-Navy SEAL named Spike. He's a 5'4" Italian guy who is just like
I like Spike
a
already.
dirty man, and he specialized in bachelorette parties. So there would be like these
Spike.
buses. This is Spike. This is who he is. There would be these buses that would tour buses that would take bachelorette parties from bar to bar to bar.
Sure.
So he was on that circuit.
Yeah.
He was one of the stops. So I go in there and I like to drink. I like to forget about the day I've had, which I hated, and I would drink. I would strike up conversation with people. And then Spike goes, "Hey, you looking for a job?" I go, I have a day job. He goes, "What about weekends? What about nights? You want to work here?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm Canadian." He goes, "Okay, that shouldn't be no problem." He goes, "If the cops ever come, you just wait in the meat freezer." But I was like, "What?"
Gotta love it.
Yeah, the meat locker. You know. I'm like, "Okay." So my cousin was like, "Are you joking?" He goes, "People go into bars, they get drunk, they get into fights, they get all kinds of. You go in a bar, you get a job,
Yep.
a second job." I'm like,
Nice.
"I don't know, it's so weird." So I would be in the kitchen. Making like steak sandwiches and stuff like that, and just in heaven. It's like my own. It's just like me being in my own kitchen.
Sure.
And I loved that 100 times more than the consulting job. Another sign that I did not belong. And also the other thing we would do is he would call me out of the kitchen to kind of spot these girls who were dancing on the bar.
Oh man.
I can't tell you how many vaginas I saw. How many?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
There would be so many girls not wearing panties
And
for
they were
reasons
on the bar, so
and they
you
were
were-
above.
yeah, sure.
And my cousin, I got him a job as well. And between women's legs, we'd be looking at each other with our hands up like this, being like just trying to spot these women, and we'd be looking at each other, just shaking our heads like, what life is this?
Like
How does this
crazy
make any
things
sense?
happen in restaurants that people don't even begin to know.
Yeah.
And as much as you can read Anthony Bourdain's Kitchen Confidential, you can read all that stuff, but until you experience it, it's hard to even fathom. It's hard to fathom what goes on.
Yeah. It really is another world.
I remember one time when I was working in this restaurant in New York, there was a panic amongst all the what do you call it, the food runners. And they're like, and I'm like, what's going on right now? I was friends with food runners. I was people in the kitchen, everyone. I was friends with everyone in the restaurant, I have to say. And this one guy's like, I'll use a different name.
Carmine.
Carmine. The person has such an interesting name that I'm trying to get an interesting name. Okay, I'll just say, Carmine passed out. He was 8-balling, and now he can't serve anymore. And it's like, what? He's like, yeah, he can't food run. We're down one food runner because he's 8-balling. Somebody's taking him to the hospital. I'm like, what's going on here, right? This was New York. Yeah, it happens all the time. Somebody will like OD or whatever mid-shift. And I'm like, I can't believe, and my eyes just got wide being this Canadian in New York in a fancy.
I was just in Montreal a couple weeks ago. I'm on this CBS television show. So one of the leads, Oded, people might know him from like The Mummy Returns. Wonderful dude. I'm like, why don't we go to this place, this Italian place? It's known for its pizza. Apparently, it's supposed to be very good. We go in. It's 4 p.m. The time is essential for this. It's 4 p.m. We've wrapped on our day. He's like, you know what? I rarely drink anymore, but I'll have a glass of wine and I'll order some lamb chops and this fantastic food. There are women doing coke in the bathroom at 4 p.m. And I know this because the same guy escorted them to the one-person bathrooms. It was a classic Montreal douchebaggery, but it still lives today. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is 20 years ago. This was 4 p.m. doing cocaine. I mean, do it at 3 a.m. like a civilized person, you know? 4 p.m. What are you doing? What's the rest of your day going to be like?
Oh, man.
Anyway, so yeah, the restaurant scene is just something else.
It is
you know?
insane.
These looked like they were friends of the owners and had their run of the place and stuff. It's all the things that. I know this doesn't apply everywhere, but in many cases, you know, the decency of the world that we think we know about, it doesn't always exist
it doesn't.
Beyond those walls.
The restaurant industry or the restaurant business is insane. It's its own beast, and until you work it. And you'll hear us throughout the podcast episodes. We're going to talk about our experiences. We're also going to talk about food. We're going to talk about drink. Our last segment will be What's in Marco's Mouth, where I get blindfolded and
It's a great segment.
and
You're
I
gonna
hate it.
enjoy it.
And Ali is going to put some mysterious food item in my mouth, and I have to then.
It's good that you clarified food item. It's always going to be a food item.
It's always going to be a food item. That's the one promise.
You're
he
always
made.
going to be
Yeah.
blindfolded.
It's always going to sound perverted and dirty as hell because there's no other way to do it. And we're not doing it intentionally like that, but it's just going to sound
What
that
are you
way.
going to do? He has a mouth and I'm putting things in
Oh
it.
man,
That's it. Yeah.
it's just insane. Yeah, so stay tuned. We'll probably have interviews with chefs and people and that'll come, and we'll have mini episodes where we talk about certain topics and all that kind of goodness.
Right. But basically, every episode will be you making a great drink. It'll be me telling people how to make a great dish, featuring some ingredient that I want to talk at length about because I'm excited about it, which could be anything. I was just making a list a few weeks ago as we were coming up with the show, and the list never ends. It never ends. So, like, about things, you know what I mean? And some days, you might make a drink with a lemon twist, and I might be focusing on lemon.
Sure.
But then in the end, what I'm really making is like, some Greek souvlaki. But it's just because I squeeze lemon on it that I'm focusing on lemon. So we're gonna make your mouth water.
Listen,
there's just no way around it. We're
You
gonna make
let
our
us
own
know.
mouths water.
You
as well.
let us know what you think of it, and we're going to make our own mouths water for sure.
Yeah. I just said the word souvlaki and I felt extra saliva in my mouth.
Now I want tzatziki. And you put that in my head. It's like when you get a song.
I
You can't get it
know.
out.
You and I are
Sorry.
both like a marketer's wet dream. You just say the thing, that now I got to eat it. I got 3 days and I got to eat it.
I'm going to ask you one last thing before we go. That's on this paper that I have in front of me. You can do the same with me.
Yeah.
You had a food blog,
Yeah.
that you co-developed called "Bland is Boring."
Yeah. So Bland is Boring still exists.
Oh, it does.
On
Okay, 'cause
YouTube.
a lot of blogs kind of disappeared.
I know.
and
Well, yeah,
whatnot.
the website that we don't maintain it anymore. Where I used to film it with my friend. His life moved on. I came here. I got married in Toronto. 2 kids, then 2 more. He gets married. He's got 2 kids, and he's moved from that apartment where we used to film. And it just, we had to really go all in on that thing.
Sure.
And in the end, what it is it's about 25 to 30 episodes, short. 2 to 5 minutes. The idea was like even people with the most severe ADD can pay attention for just under 5 minutes to me making some of my favorite dishes. So Bland is Boring is a channel on YouTube.
Oh, amazing.
And if people want to see me from a few years ago in action,
If you want to see the
a little
beauty
thinner,
behind the voice,
yeah,
you go there.
there it is.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so it's exciting. I enjoy it. I want to talk to you about there's like 15 things on this resume which will come up over
It'll
our
come up. It'll
time
come up.
together. But cycle tour guide for a very high-end travel company in Italy.
Yeah.
How tight were those bicycle shorts?
Oh,
Everybody
man.
got to know each other pretty well.
You joke, but it was true. I'll never forget the first time.
seriously,
So it was
yeah.
like, so it's a high end. It's called Butterfield and Robinson. I had a great time with them, and I had just finished doing a 6-year stint of a staged show, a show on stage.
Which
An
was
improvised-
where? In Italy?
No, in Toronto. I was
Okay.
doing a show at Second City.
6
and-
years,
Yeah,
a hell of a
it got
run,
canceled.
holy
It got canceled. It ran itself out. Let's
Yeah.
say, or it was mismanaged. One could say.
Let's spill some tea. Let's
Listen,
spill
I'm
some
gonna
tea.
spill some fucking tea. That's what this show's about, man. I'm not no holds bar here, right? Anyways, I'm not bitter about it. But I got this job where it was like you can be a cycle guide or a hiking guide in anywhere in the world, but if you spoke a language, they would put you there. Italy was I can speak Italian, so they're like, "Oh, we'd love you to be a cycle guide." I'm like, "I haven't ridden a bike in 50." They're like, "It's okay. Get a bike, get used to it. We can teach you to ride." I'm like, "But I don't know necessarily everything about what." And they're like, "No, we don't want you to be a guide that talks about history. We'll hire people to do that. We need you to be personable like you are, funny like you are, and take these people who are spending thousands and thousands of dollars to experience the best in food and culture and drink in Italy." So we do wine tours in Tuscany. We would do food tours in Piemonte. And so I got on that, and it sounds we'd eat at Michelin stars, we would drink the finest wines and all that stuff, and it sounds wonderful. But I tell you, it was the best of times. It was the worst of times because you're dealing with these Type A personalities who have millions and millions of dollars, and they have an expectation, and they feel insecure because they're in a place where they don't speak the language and they don't quite understand, and they want to command you around, but they also, so. It was intense. It was wonderful. I wish I had done it in my early 20s because I would have really appreciated it. I did it a little bit later in life, and it was still
You
great.
were already fixed on who you wanted to be and how you
Yeah,
wanted
and I
to be
was like,
treated as a human being.
It's a bike, relax,
Yeah,
pump
yeah.
your own tire. You know, it's kind of like, or like you just get some people who are just assholes. You'd get the most lovely people, you'd get the worst people.
Yeah.
I had this one woman, and I just need to say this. We were in Italy, and I curse her to this day because it was on my first tour. I won't say her name because I don't even remember it, but she's this old bag who wanted peanut M&Ms before she rode her bike every day.
Oh, my God.
I'm in
What are you,
Italy.
Celine Dion here?
I'm in Italy where they have some of the finest chocolate arguably in the world, and they would look at peanut M&Ms as like, who eats this crap?
Of course. Now, was this part of your job description to be like kind of a concierge to
Yeah,
these
we had
people?
to do everything.
Oh, you had to do it.
Yeah, that's
okay.
why it was
but
so
it
high.
sucked that
So I had to go to dingy bars where they would sell it like we sell potato chips.
Yeah.
And I'd have to buy up all their M&Ms so that I could get this woman
every morning.
peanut M&Ms, and people would look at me like, this is the home of like hazelnut and chocolate and gianduja and like Ritter Sport you can get, like all these fine chocolates. If you don't like Italian chocolates, we can get the
Verona.
German or the Belgian
Valrhona,
chocolate. Yeah,
Valrhona's,
and Ferrero Rocher, like all this is in Italy, and she wanted peanut M&Ms, and everyone in the hotel would look at me like, I don't know where you're going to get that. We don't have it. And they'd be like, I think there's a bar down the street, but it closes at 9. So I'd have to like race, or I'd have to get up early in the morning and get it for her. And that's what I would be dealing with.
That's
So
terrible.
there you go.
That is a real it's like a microcosm, you know. Like, that just gives us a slightest indication of how horrible that job could have been. Which it's terrible to hear about because this was my dream.
Yeah.
For my wife and I. We were thinking France because
Sure.
I speak the language. So the idea was like wine, cheese,
It's great.
meats, touring on a bike. We go for like not a crazy class, like not meant for bicyclists.
Sure.
But enough, serious enough that you're still biking like 50 kilometers a day. You have to exercise before your vacation. Anyway, never happened. Now we never exercise before our vacations, and we're always the least healthy people in our group of friends on the beach, and we're always like, God damn it!
Your wife looks healthy to me. She looks fit. She's okay.
Beautiful.
You don't, but she
no,
does.
of course I don't. No, she's great. Anyway, we still may do that vacation.
Listen,
one
it's
day.
a great. If you're the person who's on the tour, it's fantastic.
But you just also illustrated to me that don't go to the very, very high end ones because you'll be with those type of people who are like obscenely demanding.
We would have people who would not get along with travelers,
Of course.
and they'd be like, "This guy's an asshole." And I'd be like, "Well, you know what? I'll make sure you don't sit with them."
Yeah.
And then I'll never forget. I'll just finish with this part of the story because I could talk about my touring, but. Then we would deal with restaurateurs in Italy who were total fucking assholes. And you'd be like, listen, this person can't have gluten, so, can you not put the barley in the soup at the end for one soup? And he's like, no, I do it to all the soups. Too bad they don't get the soup.
This is the Italian shit.
Yeah, these are Italian. And then I had this one restaurateur, and he was such a dick, and his wife was such a bitch. And it was called the Frantoio. They had this like... They had this. What do you call it? They had like a fortified farmhouse that was converted into a restaurant, and it was like this restaurant that we do this 7-course meal. And he always made it seem like he was so welcoming, and she always seemed so shy and like demure. And she would cook in the back, and he would entertain the guests. But when I would have to deal with them the day before, they were monsters. She was such a bitch, and she would come out all coy and shy at the end when they clapped for her. I'm like, she's a total bitch, guys. You're clapping for her. And I'll never forget this, Ali. I just need to say this. So he would come, we would be eating, and he would, as we're like starting our course, he would come with a plate of figs and put them in front of the guests, like just like jam himself like from behind with a plate of figs and say, "These figs were picked from the land of the Lord by the women who live in this part of Italy," right? And you'd be like, why is this guy randomly coming in with figs that were picked on his property, right? And doing these poetic things, right? And I'll never forget. He didn't translate this word right. And we had bowls of pasta. And on these pastas, they would grate fresh cheese. So he came with this big ball of ricotta cheese, and he goes, "This cheese was freshly raped in the back." And then he'd pull the cheese away. And I just look at my co-guide, and I'm like, he just said they raped the cheese, right? And nobody really caught on because they were busy eating and just marveling at everything.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So my last day, they were such dicks to me. I remember saying to one of the women that worked at the restaurant. I go, oh, you know what? You might want to tell, and he wanted to be called the professor. That was his thing. It was his place, but he wanted to be professore. So I'd say, you might want to tell the professore not to say that he rapes the cheese. And she goes, why? I go, because rape doesn't mean great. It means he fucked the cheese in the back.
Against its will.
Against its will. And they looked at me. I'm like, yeah, the professor. And I walked out.
Yes, nice.
So, anyways, I got so many. All my co-guides have stories like that. But listen, these episodes, this is going to be the longest episode because our episodes are going to stay around 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So tune in.
It's not always going to be stories, but there's always going to be some stories.
Yeah.
Huh? This is we're trying to tell people we have a wealth of experience and knowledge and ridiculousness. Some of it people are going to relate to because they've been in the restaurant industry. Some of it is going to be like, come on, that's not true. And it's all true.
Is this first episode us just trying to justify to ourselves that we can do this podcast?
Do we belong here?
Yeah, is that what was real?
We belong here. We went through that a long time ago.
Yeah.
We knew we were meant for this.
It's true.
Also, the social media handles were available, so why not?
This is my friend Ali Hassan.
This is Marco Timpano. You're going to love him.
And you're listening to Eat and Drink.
We hope you got your fill of Eat and Drink with Ali Hassan and Marco Timpano. Follow them on Instagram and Twitter at Podcast Eat Drink. Email them your cocktail and food suggestions to podcasteatdrink@gmail.com. Until the next episode, bottoms up.